If Women Rose Rooted, A Life-Changing Journey to Authenticity and Belonging by Sharon Blackie was first published in 2016 and became a bestseller by word of mouth. As in, it was passed along from mother to daughter to mother to sister to aunt to friends and so on, because it has a compelling message and it has compelling stories within it. So unbeknownst to me, when I plucked this off the bookshelves of one of my favorite bookstores, is that there is a Celtic call to place, to stories, to myths, and the divine feminine wrapped all within all of those. And that was a pleasant surprise to me. I didn't realize it had the Celtic connection when I purchased the book. So as for Miss Blackie, she, by education, is a psychologist, but as her bio in the book states, she sits at the interface of psychology, mythology, and ecology. So if Women Rose Rooted teaches us the importance of place and community in our lives, and the book takes us on a journey of that calling. Before we leap into the pages of If Women Rose Rooted, I am Tina Moody, and I'm the author of The Spiritual Awakening of the Analytical Mind, which is a guide for people like me who may be stepping on their path of self-discovery and may need a little guidance like I did. And I've had this pull as I am marketing book one and I am starting to write book two to do these YouTube videos. Now, I don't think that I've fully landed on what they will be ultimately, but a nice place to land in the interim is with sharing books that have somehow left their mark on me, maybe books I've read in the past or books that I'm currently reading, as well as lessons from adventures that we may go on. So I want to thank you all for your patience as I try to fine-tune this just a little bit. First up, and as I just mentioned, I did not realize that the contents of this book were kind of weaved through Celtic mythology and actually some stories of more modern day women who have felt this pull to their Celtic origins. And in fact, the subtitle of the book, it appears on earlier editions, was called The Power of the Celtic Women, and instead of what it is now, which is A Life-Changing Journey to Authenticity and Belonging. And that's how I missed the whole Celtic piece of it. But anyway, as I have been kind of feeling a draw to my Celtic origins over the last year or two, especially after I read one of my favorite books of all time, Anam Cara by John O'Donoghue, which is a book of Celtic wisdom. And I did a video on this, so you can go hop on over if you want to watch that. I think it came out just over a year ago. So that draw has kind of I'm sure that's why I picked up the book, quite honestly. And then my oldest is trying to convince me to get a tattoo with them. And we had talked about Celtic symbols and things like that and bought me this book on Celtic patterns and symbols. So there has been this feel of that Celtic pull for sure. So anyway, one of the things that I love about If Women Rose Rooted is how Sharon Blackie kind of formatted the book. And if any of you know The Hero's Journey by Joseph Campbell, she kind of followed those principles, but is calling it the eco-heroine journey, as you saw on the thumbnail. So each chapter follows part of the journey, and I think it's great. And she brings such stories into each of those principles, I guess, and she challenges us to face ourselves, to create new for ourselves, and then to take that outside the world and do that for our community and outward into the world. And she says ultimately, stepping into our own power and taking back our ancient native role as its guardians and protectors to rise up rooted like trees. So to get into the format of the book, again, throughout the book, she brings in these myths to make a point, or these the stories of these other women that feel that connection, especially to the Isles, I would say, but even her own life. And so that kind of just makes it a nice readable book as well. And then as far as the format, the stories are all in here and are weaved in through the point of the heroine's journey, the eco-heroine's journey. But at the very back is a nice little piece. She's done a postscript called The Eco-Heroine's Journey, a Guide, and she breaks it down into the principles of the journey and kind of gives us a quick synopsis in there, which for some of us that like to maybe just want to enjoy the book and not necessarily pull those parts out because they're kind of tucked in there, she's summarized it, and I love myself bullet points, so that's pretty cool. And so basically she defines this world out here that may not be functioning the way that we all envision as the wasteland. So that's how she starts, the wasteland, and asks us to sweep aside the veil that prevents us from seeing the world as it is. So kind of take off those blinders that we may have on, to, not just out in the world, but within ourselves, in our family, in our community, and to understand what is broken and what may need to change. And then she says the next phase is the call. Now we see the wasteland for what it is, and we begin to hear the call. And so will we listen, and will we be willing to step off the edge? And I know for me, post-divorce, so now we're coming up on 8-9 years, that has definitely been the call to or what triggered the call, how's that? And we move on to the cauldron of transformation. So now we're gonna fall, we're gonna be still, we're gonna listen, and we're going to kind of stay in the dark and kind of grieve our loss or whatever that may be. And then we go the pilgrim's way. So we're gonna lick our wounds, and we're gonna get back out there, and we're gonna pick ourselves up, and we're gonna take those small steps forward to reclaiming and begin co-creating instead of being, just a reactionary participant in our lives. Next is retrieving the buried feminine, and females are creative beings, and she doesn't mean necessarily from an artist, I'm going to paint this portrait standpoint, but from our creativity. We create life, and we are nurturers by nature, and we need to embrace that and remember, also that we have both the feminine and masculine, and we may be a little out of balance. Maybe not ourselves, but maybe out there a little bit. Actually, we know our world is a little out of balance when it comes to that. And next is restoring said balance, which brings us to find the balance between the feminine and masculine. Now, currently, this balance does not exist. And we follow that with the heroine's journey. We need to find our deep connection to place, like where is our place, our community, so that we can bring our unique gifts that every single one of us have out into the world. And lastly is getting to that age where we start becoming an elder. We have more of a freedom of the constraints that life out here had put on us previously, and it becomes our turn to share our wisdom and our stories. So I love that she has kind of pulled that all together in a quick little, few page summary for us there. And with that, my overall impression of the book, I thought it was great. I can see why it's been passed around and passed down, and the testimonials here are, a life-changing book. Every woman should have it and read it. For me, it was a great reminder about the importance of place. And John O'Donohue did that too, but as well as community. It implies that we're not meant to be solitary animals, even though some of us may claim to be a lone wolf. But there's a belonging within a community, and it doesn't mean conforming. It means being authentic and being accepted as that, which I think is an important distinguishing fact. And then the connection to place. I may not live over in Ireland or Scotland or Wales or England, but all my family came from there. And so I do feel this draw to it. But, a lot of my folks came over on the early boats here to the US and didn't go very far from where they landed. I have lived in Maine. My family's on multiple sides have been in Maine since 16 whatever, as soon as they were able to get up this way. So I feel place here in Maine, and definitely felt the draw to get back here. As one of my employers said that has headquarters here in Maine, I was looking out of college to leave, and they shipped me out to Seattle. And prior to doing that, they said, don't worry, Mainers always come back, so we're not going to ship you too far. And then within 3 weeks, I was living in Seattle, which was funny. But it took me 12 years to get back here. It took me 7 to get back as far as Boston, and another 5 to get up here. So we do feel this draw to place, and sometimes that's that family or community draw, but sometimes it's the land. The land calls to get us back here. And yeah, so I think that's what I took from it. I loved the kind of intertwining of the stories and the myths within the content that she wanted to kind of project out there within the journey. Especially, I thought that was a nice way to go for this book. And yeah, so that's a wrap for me today. And I hope that if that all sounds appealing, that you'll pick up the book. Again, If Women Rose Rooted by Sharon Blackie. As I said, came out in 2016, I believe, 2016, 2017. And I was pleased to uncover it from the bookshelf when it came about, and then extra pleased when I found the Celtic connection to it. So that's a wrap for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Feel free to hop over and watch that Anamkara book. That is has a lot of similarities, especially regarding place and community and belonging, actually. So yeah, and you can get the female and male perspective on that. But until next time, be well, enjoy your holidays, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.